Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio with your host, K. William Spencer. This program is geared to help you see what thoughts and or beliefs are holding you back from being your best for yourself and those around you. Your life is only as good as your thoughts. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Now, here's your host. Hello and welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. This is, as usual, your host, K. William Spencer. We did a show a little while ago on anymeeting.com, which is where I was doing all my live shows from. And for those of you who have been following us on Any Meeting, usually the recording is not all that great. And tonight we really suffered a lot with that. So we only ran the show for roughly about 45 minutes. And the other side of it is we can't edit it. So you may hear some stuff on there that you really didn't want to hear and we shouldn't be saying. But with all the audio difficulties we had, crosstalk and echoing and everything else, tonight is the last time. This is Thursday. This is Tuesday, the 28th of May, 2013, and this is the last time we're using it, but not just because of the audio problems, but because I don't have a live show for Thursday, this coming Thursday, the 30th, and starting on June the 1st, they're starting to charge us that use Any Meeting for recordings. Well, their service wasn't that great, so I'm temporarily, at least, going to be doing everything on YouTube until I find another station to use live broadcasting from, which I think I'm close to, but we're not sure just yet. But I just wanted to let you know that. So, today, our guests are David Call, Troy Matheson, and a good friend who is a musician and also got his start in radio when he was 10 years old with his dad, editing sound bits and whatnot at radio stations. And he's also a musician, a very talented harmonist, and everybody calls him Stash. And he tells me that if he told us his name, nobody would know who he is anyway, so we'll just call him Stash. MyGigNet is the show we're talking about. Basically, as I've heard David talk about it, David is the, if you will, basically the founder, as I understand it, of MyGigNet, and it's like an open source website for producers, for musicians, for, you name it. David, why don't you tell us about all of that from there and see where we go?
Thank you, my friend. I'll tell you, it's really a fairly simple concept, but it's very deep and it's very dense and it's very comprehensive at the same time. Just imagine whether you're a teacher, a student, a professional, a venue, a service provider, an organization, a program, or a fan, and think of all the different ways that you connect, that you commune through this common musical language. And essentially that's what MyGigNet is intended to support, to empower, and to further. It's a platform for as diverse a range of musical conversation and connection as can be. The people want to know, well, what's it like? And the simplest way of expressing it is going to be to say, okay, take Facebook, give it a legitimate purpose, connect it to a wealth of musical resources that are defined much like Wikipedia is, except that it's organized according to general areas of musical involvement, whether it's education or business or uh, uh, composition and publishing, recording and distribution, performance development, professional services and venue performance, organizations, programs and funding, music therapy, music appreciation. And then to take the last component and make it all relevant, actually pertinent. And that comes in the form of a personal profile application. It's not a public profile, but it's a program that represents your musical schematic. And the musical schematic runs along the same corridors as the wiki. So it's a very consistent approach to a complex way of connecting all musical resources, whether they're human or informational. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Let me stop you for a quick second. I want to make sure that I introduce Troy Matheson in here. Troy, did you disappear, or did
No,
I?
I'm still here.
Okay, did I introduce you earlier, or did I just skip over you?
Yeah, you skipped over me.
I'm so sorry, man. This is like my little.
Okay, hi everyone.
This is like my little brother over here. And when he gets quiet, he gets quiet. But Troy Matheson is part of our show tonight as well. He is a partner with David Call. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Skype screen here, and all I saw was David and his Stash's name. I won't say that on the air. But anyhow, I just wanted to make sure Troy got mentioned in there, and I think David will introduce him and tell you what Troy's role is in MyGigNet, and Stash will interject some stuff in here. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was introduced here, and I just to add this in. I looked over MyGigNet. I've looked over some of the material. I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot because doing the show, I'm doing a one-man show, and it means everything. And was it today I interviewed somebody from Canada? No, yesterday it was Canada. Today I did it from California. I did it Florida. Monday I did an interview in Amsterdam. So I got shows coming in from all over the place. And anyway. Don't need to hear all that right now. It's just a point of that MyGigNet, as I was introduced, it is very interesting, and I think that whoever is listening, you should definitely pass this on to all your friends and anybody that's involved in the music industry, as David and Troy will tell you, and Stash, he tells us that he has been involved in it since its inception. And he's always found it to be very good, and he'll even show you something that he's done as far as a comparison to MyGigNet, and show you how not only is it very wonderful, but it does not charge you anything. So anyway, I'm sorry. Continue on, gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, hi, I'm Troy Matheson. I am a partner in a venture with David Call, the founder and creator of the MyGigNet ideology. And my part in it is to abstract the ideology into virtual objects that can be used to organize a music professional's resources, the resources they need readily available, instantly, that are effective, that are part of their personal and private network that they build over the course of their careers. And so I'm going to let David talk further. David, please tell us a little bit more about MyGigNet as far as the different types of services that it'll be able to cater to. Did we lose you, David?
David, are you there? Oh, call dropped. Okay.
Oh.
So I guess you're on your own for a little while there.
Fair enough. All right. Fair enough. Well, basically, MyGigNet is, from an ideological standpoint, I'm not the best guy to talk about this, but we'll give it my best shot because I'm the technology guy. But basically, MyGigNet is a way to integrate various types of tools that are needed. Those tools are networking tools that are effective and secure, as usually that kind of uh, personal business relationships or whatever professional relationships. You need to keep your data private while you're doing things in the development stage and all of that. So basically, it's trying to take the best of social networking and the best of services like an eBay, for example, or that kind of a thing where music professionals can buy, sell, or trade effectively with the people in their network and beyond. And we're also incorporating tools that really make an impact on the music professionals' endeavors as far as giving them more time to focus on their art than their business. My part as the technologist behind the framework is to basically, as much as possible, automate the all the business aspects that a musician, or not even just a musician, but let's say you're a publisher. You've got specific types of venues you contact, or at least other agents that might have good talent that you might be wanting to work with, see what kind of material they have in their catalog. And so we're looking at basically 12 different applications that are targeted for various types of businesses. For example, recording studios. They do very specific things in looking for new clients and trying to hustle that business. Same with like venues. Venues are constantly looking for artists that have an online portfolio. So in the sense of being a musician, you've got a vehicle right there where a prospective venue can go right to their MyGigNet profile and have access to add you to their network, and they know when you're available to do what. About what you're trying to share with your potential business clients. So it's a real comprehensive system that caters to virtually anyone and everyone interested in music, whether you're a musician, a venue, a service provider, educator, organizer, even a fan. I mean, it's really a great place for the public to be able to come and hear some new music from artists that are basically releasing new material and trying to get some exposure and generate some interest in seeing that band when that band appears in town, kind of thing. So we're really trying to create the ultimate portal for doing music business. The best part, I think, as the architect of the framework, technological framework, is the statistical analysis tools. The problem with most things like, for example, gosh, I don't want to mention any names really, but let's just suffice it to say you don't really get good demographic data of who's looked at your page, what tunes, for example, they may have listened to. Did they listen to the whole song or not? Did they even download it? All of that kind of information about who is coming to your profile, trying to do business with you, and for you to be able to go back and know who sent you what or who did what, so that you can send out appropriate autoresponders to thank those folks for visiting their time. And those autoresponders actually are personalized, right? But they are auto-generated, so the musician, for example, can be focusing on his art, or the corporation or organization can be focusing on their business in a real integrated, kind of like a one-stop shop kind of tool, which is actually a collective of 12 different types of applications that we were planning on delivering. So,
Okay, Troy.
did we get Dave back into the call?
Yeah, we got Dave back, so you can wipe your forehead and go, phew. So.
Right. Sorry about the long-winded thing.
I crashed you guys. Yeah, Troy's hit on as abundant a number of points that really drive this. I think if I was going to take the vision and encapsulate, it's the components of a musical infrastructure all exist. Now, if I were to point to a pile of girders and rivets and rebar and the trucks full of concrete and forms and so on and so forth, I could call it a bridge all I want, but it's not a bridge until it's put together. And then again, you have to speak to the fullest structural integrity of that bridge. And that's what MyGigNet is all about. It's taking everything, elevating its integrity as it makes the connections, as it brings it all together, so that those resources that are there fully and best function as a legitimate musical infrastructure. And I think that's about as simple as I can make it. Right now, right now the problems that exist are pretty much the same ones that existed when this whole thing started out. I didn't see anything out there that was intent on unifying, on codifying anything according to any sort of standard of proficiency, of practice. Did anything deliver what it promised to deliver? And really, more at the heart of it, I'll put it to you this way: when I first had this idea, my daughter, bearing in mind at that point, was barely 12, and her friends were telling me about, geez, Mr. Call, this sounds like this new thing, MySpace. And I went and I looked at that, and first thing I did was I intuitively assessed it and realized that it's promotion. I'm opening up a field and letting everybody set up their pitch their tents, set up their carts and their soap boxes and their hot dog stands and let everybody yell and hope to God that somebody was paying attention. And then Facebook came along. I was looking at it and I was going, well, yeah, this is better. But there's going to be some point when it becomes so diffused as to in essence, build its substance again on music, but to have music, really become relegated to something equivalent to cat videos and what I had for lunch. And it's much more important to me than that. I don't want to deal with that. I know most musicians don't want to deal with that. Most people that are moved at all by a musical imperative don't want that. It's not that they don't have any interest in it. It's that when it comes to music, let's deal with the music. And let's not commingle our efforts. Let's make them direct. Let's make them pertinent. A fan wants to know what's going on, and they want to share. But other people maybe want to elevate things. They want to organize. Essentially, the musical community organizers. I think the cool thing about MyGigNet is that not only does it allow any member to determine which of its features are the ones they're going to use. So there's a customization of each person's functional page. Let's let's emphasize that point. The functional page is defined by what features they're gonna avail themselves of consistently. They can revisit it, they can add, they can subtract. But just as much to the point, MyGigNet is a platform for addressing your broader contextual perspective. Are you a fan? Are you a community organizer? Are you willing to take these little these organizers and bring them to a broader community development mission? Are you willing to see? Are you capable of seeing the economic implications of that kind of development? So there's these four levels: community member, community organizer, community developer, or economic developer, and it's all built around music, and it's all feeding back into this community as its own self subsidizing economy, instead of going out into single channel corporate coffers. And I'll leave it at that.
If I may, another side of this, I got my new mic in. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't start as a musician, and when Dave and I met, I was being a stage manager. I was in the production end of the business, and unfortunately, a lot of musicians really have no concept of what the production end of the business is about. You know, staging, lights, sound, trucking, packing itineraries, stage plots, all of that stuff. And you see, this is another side of the educational part that can be integrated into MyGigNet, so that what I've always wanted to see was well-rounded musicians who knew the business, knew the laws, knew what they were getting into. That's the one thing for a newbie that's really usually missing in just about anything. What do I need to know? Where can I learn it? And as we stated earlier, you can go to Berkeley and pay an arm and a leg and spend the next 30 years doing another job just to pay off your student loans, if you're not taken right out of Berkeley. But it's still this integration factor, as we talked about with touring tools. It was a great program, but it didn't have the integration, especially on the net. And as has been said in our conversations, everything is here. It's here on the net. But you got to know where to look for it, and you got to have people out there to direct you to it. And to me, this seems like one of the major functions of MyGigNet is to provide an educational resource.
Well, if I may, we have a whole section on the MyGigNet.com website that caters to 8 different areas of music-related education and 7 other areas that are focused on business, music business-related education. So those tools for music educators, for music education, would be tools for educators. There'd be sections for lessons / curriculum. There'd be instructional media section, an area for learning opportunities, area for music research. If you're doing whatever type of research on whatever aspect of music you're trying to do, there'll be private instruction, as well as comprehensive list of music societies that every, for example, musician's going to need. For example, your links to ASCAP and BMI and CSAC and these different organizations that are going to handle your intellectual property rights tracking and all that stuff. And there's also tracking and certification type of programs where curriculum is offered, and at the end of that period, you get a certification that allows you to immediately get into a role fulfilling that kind of a position. Then in the business education part, there's comprehensive education on accounting and taxes, for example. There's also general business management, career management, how to develop relational databases to track your own data within your own warehouse on your machines there at your company. There'll be all kinds of educational information on equipment use and maintenance that relates to the various types of business equipment that's involved. And there'll be a section for legal related stuff where you can learn about copyright law and various contract, agreement drafts and stuff. And then there'll be a whole educational section for publishers and promoters. So it's a pretty comprehensive educational foundation that we've taken into consideration in the building of this technological framework, so we can integrate these various types of services, whether you're a musician or an organization, into a comprehensive educational program.
I also have another question, if I may. The education part is there, but let me throw out a hypothetical, if I can get my mouth to work right. I'm a band leader, and I don't have a management company, but I got gigs all over the Pacific Northwest, and I've got to put a tour together. Mm-hmm. Now, where do I find qualified touring personnel? I don't just need players. I need a road manager, a tour manager, a truck driver, stage, a sound guy, sound system, all of that. That is part of the integration.
That is a query-based kind of situation where there's an advanced, what's the equivalent of a search form, and so you can put in multiple options, like I need a checkbox to look for all of the agents, and the way that those basically that query, the result set from that is returned, is based on locale. So if you type in a zip code, blah, 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 it's going to start recommending the closest available resource that has marked themselves through their personal profile application as available for projects, right? Like if I'm a composer and you're looking for a composer, then you can log into your personal profile and do a search saying I'm looking for a composer, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of results turned, but those results will be based on closest proximity to you. And they will be qualified, by the way, the composers. So there'll be options if you select that you're looking for a composer to say, I need somebody that specifically specializes in rhythm and blues. And I mean, they got to have good stuff for me to hear, because I really don't have.
Okay. But there's a line here, and I know several promoters and whatever that really cringed when I crossed the line, and that is between production and performance. And are you building in the facilities to recruit production people into MyGigNet? Not just the musicians who want to start a career, but the people the support.
How about absolutely? First of all, let's point out one thing. Any one bit of information, any one resource can find its placement in several places within the MyGigNet wiki. So first and foremost, it's not just about the information being available. It's about trying to anticipate. I'm fundamentally a teacher, so I recognize one thing. Different people have different modes of learning, of relating to the same information. So what we've recognized is that any single resource can be sought asking any of a number of questions. Secondly, it gets down to when you develop your personal profile application, the questions that it asks, again, follow that same construct as the wiki. So if you are a service provider, you're answering that part of it. You're going to find that there are several areas where you're going to dovetail, where you're going to find other points of compatibility that will cause certain of these service providers to move up on the list of those that are recommended. So I would go one step further. Yeah, locale is going to be an issue, but just as it's going to be a qualifier, but it's all, but just as importantly is that there's going to be this element of compatibility. I don't want to just have a good guy available. I don't want to have just a qualified guy available. I want to have a good qualified guy that I can get along with available, because we're not in it. You know, these are not one-offs. This is intended to embolden and forward long-term relationships. Kind of like the old concept of, hey guys, I want to start a band, and thinking that you're going to go on forever. Let's hope that this is the means of taking care of that part and fulfilling it for the long term, so you're not having to shop over and over and over again.
Sounds wonderful. Let me interrupt you for a moment. We're going to take a little commercial break, and we'll be right back with David Call. Thank you, Stash, for introducing some other thoughts. The reason why I say that is because when we were doing the commercial, I did the commercial for this particular show today. Somebody was looking at MyGigNet, and I think their only real complaint was they didn't have enough pictures in it. It's an information-based website, and I was promoting it, and I still think I'm going to stick with it. Is a revolutionary new way for the music industry to operate. It sounds good. The questions are coming out, and I believe that David and Troy and Stash with his questions are actually getting this point out. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with David Call with MyGigNet.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com. And you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria.
Hi, this is K. William Spencer of Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. I'm just dropping by to give you a quick update of a few of my guests for the month of June. Recently, my guest was Len Branson, the author of Superwise Me. And coming up, I have the author that goes by the pen name of Eva Marie Payet. Then we have country music musician Doug Briney, Robert Kennedy III, Lillian Brummett, Sandra Patino, and many more. Please join my guest and me every Tuesday and Thursday evening for inspiring and motivational conversations on personal successes, achievements, and sometimes awe-inspiring transitions. And as always, for current information, visit the website at www.ytyr.tk and the Facebook page, facebook.com/YTYR Radio. And remember, think great and have a great life. Welcome back. We have David Call and Troy Matheson of MyGigNet here with us today. Stash, who got his start in radio and is now a musician, has his own band. Getting questions and answers for everything that you, well, not everything, because there's a lot of information with MyGigNet, but giving you a lot to work with, and we're going to continue on. So, David, I interrupted you. I'm sorry for the commercial break, so if you would, please continue.
Well, you nailed the point. This right now, where we stand is it's strictly informational. It's intended, it's really intended for the person that is driven to actually do some hard work, but not any harder than any other aspect of developing a career. To see what MyGigNet is about, to find the one or several parts of this proposition where they can help. I think again, it's about being real transparent about what it is that we are intending on doing. We don't do it. We don't do any of it yet. And if anybody's looking for this site to be, God, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad all rolled into one, and have the wisdom of the Buddha driving it all, it ain't gonna happen. You know why? It's because it really is not empowered by any one of us. It's only supported by us. This is an introduction to what you guys, the individual, can do to, in helping yourself, help others. I'm going to use there's one app that we are proposing to develop. And bear in mind, I'm not a coder. I've never programmed anything short of a VCR in my life. So what I wanted to do was to find at least one thing that everybody could do. And in this case, everybody, once this app is developed, everybody's going to have a capacity to be an archivist. It's this musical resource assessment tool, and I'll walk you through it. It's a real simple supposition. You're looking for a particular type of musical resource. Well, is it in music education, or is it in the business side? Is it composition and publishing, or recording and distribution, or any of these corridors of musical interest and endeavor? Well, you're going to logically figure out where this particular piece of information, this resource, should be. Let's assume it's not there. You've searched the entire MyGigNet wiki and have not found it anywhere. So what's the next logical thing you're going to do? Next logical thing in my mind is you're going to look for it because you want it. So you enter the net through the MyGigNet portal, and you do your searches, and you come upon one or several sites that purport to do what it is that you want. And when you do come upon it, you're going to make an assessment of it. Whether it's intuitive or analytical, doesn't matter. We're going to give you this tool. You can engage it. Bang. It knows where you were already in the wiki. It knows where you are. It's just going to ask you a few simple questions. Does it do what you want it to do? Is it clear? Is it comprehensive? Is it easy? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate it? Do you have any comments? Once you disengage it, it acts as a runner and places that link with that qualified information on those shelves where you've already visited, and then you move on to the next one. You engage and you disengage at will. And so if you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you're a pro, if you're a fan, if you're a service provider, if you're an organization, an individual, it doesn't matter. Fundamentally, you've got the capacity to find and to house this information in the wiki so that you don't have to remember where you were. You just have to remember what it did. But in the process of helping yourself, you're helping the next guy who then will look in that spot and go, aha, I don't have to find it. I don't have to search anymore. Or if it's not quite what he's looking for, he enters the net through the portal and he adds to that spot in the shelf. And so in that respect, this is a place where everybody potentially has a stake in everybody else's success.
one of the things you were mentioning there, Dave, earlier, and this helps me in the fact that whenever I was putting players together for my organization, I had what I called a "this bus is going to Phoenix" speech. I knew where I wanted to take the band after, well, what is it now, 52 years in the entertainment business. I knew what I wanted. I knew what kind of players I wanted. I know where I wanted to take the band, and I can get all of this out in the open through MyGigNet and find similar players who have the same goals. That's a big one, because a lot of times you just run into barroom heroes. I just want to get a gig playing on weekends at the local clubs. Well, that wasn't what I was looking for, and then I have to go through a dozen more players to find the one that wants to go to Phoenix.
That's right. That's right. And this addresses that in very, very short order. I think that's, again, when I first had this idea, there were some very specific friends that I had in mind, guys that had worked their butts off forever to develop a career, and who ultimately found themselves stymied by continuing to have to do the same hard work over and over and over again, and all I could do was to say, geez, there's a whole bunch of guys that may not be, the badass musicians that you want, but guys who as a team will come together and deliver a badass product. That's really, I think, fundamentally what's at play. It's like, do you, in the end that a good and competent team is got a better capacity to deliver something much more with greater impact and greater credibility than any group of ego-driven divas and virtuosos. Now that to me is the bottom line. This is about us not just networking, but networking legitimate teams. Part of it is that if I again, this goes to that personal profile application. If I got a problem and I'm seeking a solution, I don't want to have to explain where I'm coming from. Well, compatibility, this personal profile application is going to be a great tool in helping us to overcome that aspect, because with certain consistent shared points of compatibility, of experience and expertise, we don't have to go through the "I'm coming from this space" form of explanation. It gets right down to, this is the problem I got, and when the person is delivering the solution, they don't have to explain where they're coming from either, because it's a shared perspective.
And of course, there are many players that I have met, and by God, all these years of doing shows, I've met lots of players, and there are so many I would not want to spend 6 weeks on a tour bus with. I want to know, the ego thing. That's a hard thing for a lot of artists to get past, is their ego. But when it gets down to brass tacks, I want to know what you can do, not who you are.
Well, in the end, it's like, again, I like I said before, I bring a bass player sensibilities to all of this. I want to mediate and to facilitate that process as pointedly as I can, to bring diversity to a common point, to make it all make some sense, and to minimize the second guessing aspect of it. It's just
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really it.
That's fantastic.
Well, it was all born on the same principle that kicked this whole process off, which was golly, I spent a whole bunch of time listening to everybody's problems, and it got to the point where I was hearing them so consistently for so long, I actually threatened to write a form letter with a list of peas, bitches, and gripes, and a little box to the left of each one. And so the next time I would hear it, it would be check off those pertinent points, sign at the bottom, and the next time I hear it from you, I'll show you the form letter. I've heard it before. And what happened was, as I had 1 week that was hideously involved in taking care of other people's problems. Not that I didn't want to, but I had my own that I had to deal with. And finally sat down, was writing this thing out. So after near 24 years, I'm gonna finally deliver this form letter, and I had this voice pop in the back of my head, and it was a college professor in play production class who had expressed that the problem with critics is that they understand the description part of their job, but they don't understand that their job also moves them to prescribe, to deliver a solution. And so the list didn't change. What I recognized was every problem implies a solution. And that's why we didn't stick with the original simple management application. It all had to come together in something more holistic, more musical.
Indeed.
And that's where we are. But it's still informational, folks. That's really the thing. Right now, what we need people to step up and help us to develop this. Because it's not mine, it's not Troy's, it's not Stash's, and it's not K. William Spencer's. It's everybody's. But it will belong to those who build it, who add content and value, develop its
community.
It's intended to be a legacy in the traditional sense, not in the technological one. This is about something that, again, it's process centric. It's process driven. And because it is, it will outlast a whole bunch of other models that are, flavor the day, the year, or the decade.
Well,
but it's literally going to be on with the heart and on the backs of those that actually care enough and see not just the viability, but the feasibility of what it is that we're proposing. We've already done the hard work.
It's
Dave,
obviously a labor of love for you, David.
Oh gosh, listen, what a lot of people don't know is that I am a near full-time caregiver to my wife who has MS. I am doing that at the same time that I'm struggling as a musician. I'm a successful musician, but I'm struggling, and everything that I'm doing is born on the notion that, one, I live the condition that I am intent upon serving. That's what this is. So when you say, labor of love, it is a labor of love, because fundamentally it feeds to that passion that I had when I was 4 years old, when I first decided that I wanted to play music. But at 13, fully realized what it was that I wanted to play, and how I wanted to go about it. Yeah, a lot of hard work, a lot of heartache, a lot of struggle, a lot of strife has transpired between then and now. And at this point in my life, I'm near 62 years old. Bearing in mind that when I was 50, the question arose that when I am gone, what are people going to say about me? I don't want. It's one thing for folks to be able to say Dave Call was a nice guy. He was a good player. People loved him, and he cared about his community. No, I got down to, at the very least, as impossible as the odds were, as huge as this vision was, as much as I felt an affinity for Noah building an ark that came out of nowhere, it was about someone who's not willing to give up, because that's the easy thing to do. But absolutely, okay, even if it didn't happen, Dave Call was not going to give up. If he had to take it to the grave, Dave Call was not going to give up. Why? Because it needed to be done.
I'm happy to hear that.
This is something that I keep hearing in doing this show, and I'm glad that you brought that up, David. It's people that have a passion to do something, and they are driven by their heart. It's amazing how many people in the world, they want to be successful, but the ones that I'm talking to, they're looking for success, but it comes from the heart. It's not something that they're looking just to pad, to give them a limp when they sit down. In other words, I got a fat wallet, and well, look at how much I lean to one side. It's a point of people who have a passion for something, and they're driving it, and it's something that's not a selfish passion. And one other thing here, because we're coming up to about 3 or 4 minutes before we have to end this particular show, so I'm going to ask you to think about something that you want to say in closing here while I just mention this one thing. I noticed that about 3 years ago, give or take 3 or 4 years ago, I have musician friends. I think we all come from a musical background, more or less. Mine is probably less, because I'm not like Troy. I don't compose music. I don't have a band like Stash, and I wasn't that successful as what you're talking about, David. So, but I've noticed a friend of mine in Europe who used to be advertising a lot of his gigs, because he would travel all around Europe and even parts of the Americas and whatnot. And he's very popular, but he's basically, if you want to call him, just for lack of something else, because my mind is kind of fried anyway, he's kind of like an open source musician. In other words, he's a street musician to a certain degree, but he has several CDs out. He's recorded for movie scores and stuff like that, but he's not your traditional musician. In other words, I don't think he's looking for creating a group and doing just popular gigs. He likes just doing, I think it's just his connection with people, that he likes to go out and just open up his guitar case and just perform. And he's excellent. He's got music videos on YouTube and Meta Cafe and I think Daily Motion, and he's all over the place. And another friend of mine I grew up with, he left the television business as a cameraman and went back into playing music. And these people used to advertise. I'm just using 2 people as an example, one who's in Europe, one who's in the United States. They used to use Facebook as a venue to advertise their gigs and stuff like that, and I don't see either one of them that much. And what you're talking about with MyGigNet sounds like an excellent idea. So since I'm not the musician, you want to address that and use some final closing words.
Yeah, well, let's start with, okay, the average income of a full-time professional musician is $8,500 a year. Now, that is below the poverty threshold, and I emphasize the fact that too poor to be considered poor is not a desirable state. That said, we are looking at how we can more equitably deal with that imbalance in this business, but it starts with feeding that fundamental passion, that pureness of space that is defined by the street musician, okay? When it comes to the effectiveness of something like Facebook or even Reverb Nation, all that is promotional. Well, what are you doing? You're just yelling loudly. And what we're intent upon doing is qualifying that fan base, if you are a performing musician, and of qualifying that entertainment base if you're a fan, saying, okay, look, we're going to cut through all the noise. It's going to bring the people that actually care to your venue. They're going to be they're the ones that are going to hear your message loud and clear. And what we're going to do on top of that is we're going to take every transactional mechanism that's already at play on the internet, stuff that you're not going to be feeling except on the positive side of your pocketbook in the process. So it's not just about getting you more gigs in more venues, or even better paying gigs in more venues, which certainly is going to help. But it's also about this concept that we call mailbox money. So you contribute, you own it. You're only tithing a small portion of it to the site to manage it, and to a network of others to bring other people that actually care to what it is that you contribute. Geez, managers, agents, and creators. It's a standard musical model, except that instead of Sony or EMI or any of these others taking the lion's share and leaving you the scraps, it's because it's the process that we're emphasizing here. You're the ones that own it. No one else can own it while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. David, you sound like you have a lot more to go, and I'm going to invite you back to do another show. Even though I only host the show, and Troy actually has the show booked for at least every last Tuesday of the month. So you can come back and do a show with me, or you can do, or both if you want, do another show with Troy. Actually, we might even put you in on my featured page, and we can just go from there so we don't have to wait for another month or whatever else. Let me know what you want to do. I definitely appreciate the time. I've learned a lot just by listening, and I'm quite sure others have learned a lot by being here and listening to this, especially this recording, which was a lot better than the first one we did. So I'm just going to close with this one, and I want to thank Stash for being here, bringing up some great questions. And Troy, if you have some final words, invite us for your next show, whatever. Please do welcome. Tell us about what you have planned for your next show, if you have anything at all.
All right. Well, I'll start with a quick ad. MyGigNet.com.
Okay.
Connect, collaborate. Anyway, Yeah, exactly. I haven't settled on a topic for next month yet, but as Kay William Spencer just mentioned, I do a show the last Tuesday of each month at the time being. And so we will be announcing soon the topic of the next show. I'd really like to kind of talk a little bit, possibly about what are called IGV, or inverse gravitic vehicles. So I'm going to see if I can make those arrangements. Like I said, there'll be a posting soon at yourthoughtsyourradio.tk, which is ytyrradio.tk. And please stay with us. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and all my best to you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
God bless.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Tash. We'll see you guys later. Be well, everybody. We'll see you around on the next show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Please make a note to join us again on our next broadcast. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Our theme music is Soul Controlled by B.O. Crew under a Creative Commons License 3.0. See our website for more information.